right, well, here we go. We jump into the very first podcast, and I'm joined by the expert, well-known in the market, Olly Newland. So, Olly, good morning. Thank you for being with us.
Pleasure.
I'm sure everybody's going to find this interesting. I'm going to find this really interesting. I know we've got a series running ahead of us. Today is your non-negotiables on buying property. But maybe before we get into that, fair to say your experience in the Auckland market has been 40, 50 years. Your experience being a commentator in the market, probably 30 plus years. And then you've also been an advisor and financial advisor, but also coaching people. So a wealth of knowledge. Is that fair to say?
Fair to say. It's actually 60 years in the market.
60 years. I was making you look younger than you are, Olly.
Okay. Okay. Yes.
So are you happy if we sort of delve into all of that?
Sure.
Yeah, brilliant. So due diligence with buying. And I guess there'll be some things that have been consistent over time, and there'll be some things that might be sort of post-monolithic era that we add in. So what would be your advice to somebody now that's thinking of buying? What should they be doing?
Well, if they're looking at a property to buy, a residential property, there are certain things that they should check out first, if not supplied by the real estate agent. Mm-hmm. Firstly, they should look at the LIM report, Land Information Memorandum. They should look or get a builder's report on it. They should have a moisture report if it's a clad house, definitely. Yep. They should check that all the code compliance certificates are in place. They can make a big mistake later. And if they can afford it, get a valuation done.
Yeah, I like that.
An independent valuer. Then, because the market is so dodgy at the moment, you don't know where the valuers are. So getting an independent valuation done might be a very important thing to do.
And in your time, as you've been doing it, say if I start at the top with the LIM report, two versions, one supplied by the owner. So normally the agents will give you a copy of that, certainly if it's auction. In my practice, it's always been, that's cool, but get your own lawyer to source one also.
Or get your lawyer to check it.
Yeah, check it. Yep. So do you normally, in the past, you've had your lawyer check it, plus you will obviously go through it?
You don't have to be smart about it. You get your lawyer to check it.
Sweet.
Don't think you know everything.
Yep.
They find things too that you miss. Buying a house is an expensive business, but it's an even bigger expense if you make a mistake.
Isn't that great? Because people think it's just this linear transaction, but no, it is an expensive business, isn't it? It's a multi-million-dollar transaction in Auckland today.
Absolutely.
Yep. Consents, you drive down into consents and double check. Do you do property bag checks or anything like that, or do you just leave it to your lawyer?
Why be clever? You pay your lawyer anyway. Let him check it, and if something goes wrong, you've got somebody to blame, you see. I don't try to be cleverer than my lawyer. Never.
Yeah, no, got it. And what about building inspections? What's your tips on that?
Well, most properties should have a building inspection. You'd be surprised how many are shoddily made. Mm-hmm. And on top of that, they may pick up leaks and faults with plumbing, and especially with new houses. Some of them aren't built as well as they should be. And, of course, if it's a plaster-type home, some of them are okay. But you can't take the risk. You have to have a building inspection as well as a moisture test.
Yep.
And that moisture test will give it all away. And it may be perfectly right. Not all plaster homes are bad, but some of them are.
Have you personally purchased any plaster homes, or have you just gone, you've steered clear?
I steered clear. Why?
Yep. Again, just to make the portfolio safer, yeah?
But there's money to be made out of plaster homes.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you can buy it at the right price and reclad it, and if you do the moisture test first, you can make a few dollars on that.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And over time with builders, have you used the same person? Have you developed relationships, or how have you approached that?
Well, yes and no. You do build up relationships with certain builders and craftsmen, but they tend to drift off and they get busy, especially in a market like this. And so you have to go and get who you can.
Yep. No doubt, Olly, do you know how many properties you've purchased, or have you simply lost count over the years?
I've lost count. I used to have a map on the wall and put a pin. And every time I purchased a property, I put a pin in the wall. In the end, the map fell off. Too many holes. But this is going back 60 years. It must happen.
What is? I'd be interested. So you've had your lawyer check. Obviously, you do the right thing. You've had the builder go through check for you to give. So you're satisfied. Yeah. What are some of the surprises you've seen? Have there been some disasters that you've seen in there that you've avoided?
Well, spending a lot of money and finding it's a disaster is a waste of money, but it's better than going ahead and doing it.
Yeah, great.
Oh, some of the things I found, oh, goodness gracious me, whole rooms carved out of places with no support is hanging there. Only the borer holding hands to keep the walls up. Yeah? And sometimes there's been crooked vendors who pretend that the land that's up against them belongs to them as well. Well, it doesn't. All sorts of things, but most of the time it doesn't happen very often. But that's why you should check.
Did you see, I'm on the inside of the industry. Have you seen from your side looking in as such, have you seen a change in disclosure with real estate agents and owners come through? Whereas in the past it was more caveat emptor. Now it is tell everybody you're aware of something.
Over the last 10 or 15 years, there's been a few gnarly cases where real estate agents have been caught out for not telling lies, but just not telling the truth, which is the difference. They didn't even know. And it's much tougher now for anybody to get away with anything. But it pops up now and then. That's why you should do these checks.
See, on our side, and I know you've done real estate at a certain point, but on our side now, it went from caveat emptor, I hope there's no problems, to ask if there's a problem, then tell, to now ask if there's a problem. If the vendor tells you a positive answer, but you suspect that's not right, the real estate agent needs to give evidence. So that's the evolution of that sort of disclosure as we go through, which I think is helpful, yeah?
Yeah, that's right. But there's another part of residential property we haven't mentioned. It's apartments.
Okay.
Apartments are slightly different. You do all those things anyway, but you have to look, in apartment blocks of more than 10, they have to have a long-term maintenance plan. And that sets out what has to be done in the next 10 years. And if you're buying an apartment, you should check that. And secondly, you should check how much money is in the bank of the body corporate that looks after it. Because if it's got no money, not much use, is it? So buying apartments is another big area to check.
Where would you guide someone? If somebody's getting started, you say, hey, look, you've got no choice, you've got to buy an apartment, or do you say stick to standalone homes or terraced homes? What's the difference between the two in your eyes?
Well, there's more capital gain in the long run for a house on a piece of land because it's the land that goes up in value. Houses depreciate, land appreciates. Apartments, depending where they are, tend to be okay, just sort of muddling along, but if they're in a good spot, like along the waterfront or the best part of Remuera or something, okay, they go up in value, and depending on their size as well. But apartments, ordinary shoebox apartments, tend to slowly lose value because they need a lot of maintenance. It's over years and years and years and years.
And do you think there's more risk in some of those? If we say the shoebox ones, is there more risk in if it's not leaking, it might leak, or the building might leak?
Oh, that depends. It depends on the structure of the building. They're okay, but they're never going to be very, very valuable.
Yep.
Because of the size. It's 40 square metres or something. Every time you smile, your cheeks touch the opposite walls. It doesn't work.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
What have been the so now you've done these non-negotiables as you've gone.
Absolutely.
That's kept you safe. You've had some great opportunities come through.
Oh yeah, make mistakes now and then.
Okay.
Make a big mistake. I'm not going to go. We'll be here all day. I once bought the wrong house. An agent trusted me, told me where to go, to a certain street. I went there, walked through the house. Everybody's there, they're cooking on the stove. I went back to the agent, said, very nice, settled for the thing. And when I got the keys, I went back to the house and the people are still there. So what's going on? They said, it's not our house, it's the one across the road. Yeah, that was casual, I tell you. And it wasn't anywhere near as good. I got through that. It doesn't happen too often.
Well, that's pretty good. That's a private inspection where you go by yourself without the agent. Yeah. So, maybe extra value in the agents. Agents will love that. They haven't realised this, but at least we can show the person the right house instead of the one next door.
That's my mistake.
And afterwards, no doubt, as you've said, there's been some where you've done your due diligence, but afterwards there's still discovery and you found that you bought something that's got a problem, yeah?
Well, pretty well there's no problems you can't fix.
Okay.
If you throw enough money in it, and that's the problem. That's the problem. Yeah. Yes, we've found problems. Rot is typical in some places, sinking foundations, leaky stuff, that's a big problem. Sometimes there's claims on the land by somebody else. Who knows? There may be a thunder big building going on next door you don't know about. Plans are ready, but it doesn't show up anywhere. All these sort of things you've got to check. I don't want to frighten you. 99 times out of 100 it's fine, but occasionally it turns to custard.
Which is about right, and we see that. everything goes through smoothly, and one pops up, and there's something, something down the road was built, or something changed, or something leaked. Even when the purchasers had the building inspection, and afterwards they come back and go, actually, I tell you what, the first big downpour, something changed on it. So, yeah, that can happen, can't it? Yep. Hey, how about this? What was your transition? Is it the same for commercial?
No, commercial is completely different.
Okay,
Everything you know about residential, forget, start completely different.
So what's your checks on a commercial purchase?
Well, commercial purchase is based on its return. You pay a price based on the yield, if you like, on how much rent it's paying, and exactly net rent after all expenses. And that varies from area to area and town to town. And the second thing, we've got to get that net rent sorted out, exactly what you're getting, and work out what the place is worth, because the value is based on that rent. It's quite different. It's like shares on the market. The value of the shares is based on the yield. And the second thing you've got to check is earthquake prone. Is it earthquake prone? The limit is 34%. Anything under 34%, the bank won't lend you. And in fact, anything over 34%, the bank is unhappy too, till you get to about 70%, and then the bank is happy. So this has got to be looked at. And there's people making money out of buying low-grade buildings and strengthening them. But that needs deep pockets. That needs very deep pockets. But this is a pain, this earthquake loading thing. Very, very big pain.
So on your due diligence, you're checking that, you're checking the yield, you're making sure that the tenancies and the rents are what you've been told, and that your numbers stack.
Yeah, the big job, though, once you check those basics, you go through the leases, leases, and look for weaknesses. When's the tenant likely to stay? Is the tenant likely to stay? When's his next rent review? When's he actually have the right to leave the premises? What belongs to you in the property, what doesn't belong to you? And then you ask around, is he paying his rent on time? The best thing is to go see the tenant, put your knees under the table and have a chat. 5 minutes you learn more than all the gobbledygook you get from somewhere else. And it works out. It works out. And you get a steady return, 4, 5, 6, 7%, depending where it is, net. And you've got to find out what the tenant pays. It's very important. There's always a fight over that. There's always a bun fight breaks out over that.
Isn't that a great way to put it? You put your knees under the table and you have a chat, and over that 5-10 minutes you're actually going to find out if they're in trouble, if they're not, what does it look like?
You want to see their bank statements and see if they've been paying their rent on time. And by the way, commercial property, there's none of this warm and dry stuff. The tenant can freeze in there. That's not your problem. The place leaks, not your problem. It's got cockroaches, not your problem. And there's no tenancy agreements and no tenancy tribunal. Great.
Brilliant. So a lot of that's
gone. It's all gone.
You're still doing your lawyer's still looking at LIM.
You're still looking at
building inspection. You're still throwing a builder through to say
you could do. If it's solid concrete, and it's obvious, maybe not. But it's the earthquake part you got to check.
That's the main aspect.
Especially the further south you go in the country.
You touched on bank, but what's your experience with the banks, residential compared to commercial?
With residential, there's a sort of understanding with banks that they've got to help people into their homes. And so it's easier, inverted commas, to get a loan on a house, and they'll lend you more usually, depending on your deposit. They may lend up to 65% on a reasonable house. Not too much trouble, all things being equal. If you're buying a commercial property, they're looking very hard at it. They know they're getting rent. If you don't pay the interest, they've got the property. They prefer to go to 50%, maybe 60% on a good day. 75% is hard to get. Hard to get. But the banks like commercial property if they've got good tenants, because they know that not only got you as the guarantor, but they got the tenant as well. They can grab the tenant's rent if you don't pay.
Yeah, brilliant. They look at that. Here's something interested in your thoughts on this. Back in the GFC, so 2008, 2009, at that stage, we had an office in the city in High Street. And prior to that, I'd been looking at commercial thinking, this looks great. Tenant pays for everything and you just send them the bill for anything that's done. It's nice and clean. And as you say, you're not answering questions about the hot water cylinder and all that sort of nonsense if you take it that way. But then 8, 9, 10 in High Street, I saw them all empty and lease signs up, and I thought, that must be an expensive building to pay off and there's no revenue.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that does happen. A house or flat is reasonably easy to find a tenant. A commercial property going empty is not that easy at all. So the answer to that, as far as I'm concerned, I'd rather get $1 a week than nothing. I've let tenants into commercial properties literally on $1 a week, or 6 months rent-free, something, anything. Somebody can put a mist on a mirror, can go in, have it a go and see, rather than leaving it empty, and give it a chance and see. And not more than 12 months maybe.
Yep. And does that secure them over the long term? It means the building's actually occupied. It's better for the building. Yeah.
Yeah, it's better for the building and better for the neighbours as well.
Yep.
Just get somebody in and tell them, look, there's 100 different ways of doing that. So, okay, the rent is $100,000 a year, pay every second month. You get 6 months rent free that way. Or have 3 months rent free, or pay half rent for the first 6 months, or anything at all to get a live body into that building paying rent. I mean, be careful who you don't take a gang in it, but somebody reasonable, and hopefully they'll make a go of it.
Yeah, and then they'll
by
pop
year
out
2,
the other side.
Maybe by year 2 and 3 they're okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Better than sitting empty.
Just thinking about that, you say by year 2 and 3 they might be okay. If you've done 60 years in the market, this might be a hard question. And the question is, property cycles. How many years is the market up for, and how many years is it down for? And even if the down is a bit of a blip, do you see anything? What do you
I've
think?
been through many cycles. I've been through the cycle in the 60s when there was a big crash in the 60s. Everybody's forgotten except me. There was a big crash in the 70s when the oil shocks came along.
Yeah.
And the Labor government was in charge then. Draw your own conclusions. There was another crash. The 80s was the share market crash. And then there was several crashes in the 90s, the GFC and the Asian crash and what have you.
Yeah.
And so, you're getting giddy with this, all the crashes. And the usual time, the crashes go faster than the recoveries. 7 years maybe, around about an average. If you can hang in for 7 years, you're probably coming out of the other side.
Yep. Okay, so when you look at today's environment...
We haven't even started.
Yeah, okay, cool. Tell me about that.
Well, people are nervous, of course, because the Reserve Bank is hiking up interest rates, but the truth of the matter is very few people have to really sell. Most people can say, I don't like it, I'll stay where I am. They would love to sell, they would die to sell, but they don't have to sell. So what's pushing property onto the market are the 3 Ds: death, divorce, and the bank. Hey? People who die and leave an estate, everybody's getting their hands on it, and they're forced to sell it out. A divorce, well, that's a biggie. People sell their house, split the money 50-50, end up with 50% of nothing.
Yeah.
Okay? And they have to go and find something else. And the bank, that's forced from the bank. There are people like that, but that's a very small part of the market.
Yep.
85%, 90% of the market sit back and say, look, I don't like it, but I'll stay where I am. Sit and they don't sell, which creates a shortage, which puts the price back up. Like that.
Economics of it. I watched that. So we saw the GFC start end of 2007. We had a lot of data.
Yeah.
2008, the market went, actually, there's a problem. 2009, they said we're out of it. 2010, I went, now we're starting to come out of it. And in 2010, I started to see the mortgagee sales. So people could hold, as you've said, they held for a long period of time, probably too long, I think.
There shouldn't be mortgagee sales. Most banks will cooperate with people and hold them together. They'll freeze, they'll do anything. The banks do not want to see lots of mortgagee sales. It looks bad for them.
Yeah.
And if everybody goes in a mortgagee sale, the bank goes under.
Yeah.
You talk to your bank if you've got problems, can't pay, can only pay some, go to your bank early, sit down and work out a deal. They may freeze some of it, they may reduce it to interest only, they may take half, give you 2 or 3 years to go over it. The last thing they want to do is force you into the street, because everybody loses then. But occasionally some people just run, leave the place behind, and then there's a mortgage. Every mortgagee sale you see advertised, there's probably 100 other that haven't been advertised.
Yeah,
people struggling.
Absolutely.
Getting it sorted.
I agree with that.
Most get it sorted.
I've seen that from the inside when I was selling. Back in that tough period, people would say to me, we need to sell fast. I said, how fast? And they would tell me how many mortgage payments they could make, and then that was it. They're out. So that was pretty tough. If we talk banks, do you stick with one bank? Do you shop around? Has your view of banks changed over the years? Where are you sitting on that?
We're not allowed to use swear words here. I don't. With all due respect to my banker, I don't trust them at all, because they're looking after themselves. They will be friendly up to a point, but when things get tough, it's the end. So it's best to go around to several banks.
Yep.
And be friendly with them. Have one account here, one account there, and shop around and have several accounts going at once, because banks, they're like girlfriends. They come and go. 1 minute they love you, 1 minute they don't. And so it's best not to get too cosy, because they're going to disappoint you in the end. I've lost the question. What was the question?
There's going to be the famous clip that they get, from the whole segment today. They'll be, banks are like girlfriends, they come and go. They love you and then they don't.
Sorry about that, folks. Yeah, but it's no use trusting one bank to look after you. They will let you down eventually.
Yeah. I did all my banking since a little kid with one bank. They had a little piggy bank that everybody in Auckland would be familiar with. Yeah. And I was loyal to them. I thought they loved me and they were loyal to me. And then I watched them do a mortgagee sale. I had to be the auctioneer on it. And the owner, who had done exactly the same thing, had all their business with that one bank, was inside sitting literally in a wheelchair with cancer. And that had forced the mortgagee sale. And I went, geez, the bank's not that loyal, are they? They changed their tune real fast.
I've seen people ruined by that.
Yeah.
That's why you should spread whatever you've got around.
Yeah. This is for banks, not girlfriends, so.
I'm not saying anything. I'm deep enough in the trouble already.
Excellent. What a great session. If we summarised it now, and we'll go back to the top there for the people we've got with us. We'll just go back over your top tips. Residential, what would they be?
That's a builder's report, moisture report, code compliance certificates, valuer, and limb report.
Beautiful. And trust your lawyer.
Yep.
That way, if they get it wrong, you've got somebody to blame.
That's right.
You can drag them into it. Say, hey, sunshine, we paid you money. You should have done it.
Here comes the Law Society. Yep.
Yeah, off to the Law Society. And then if we change into commercial, all of that plus
long-term commercial. Sorry, the lease.
Yep.
Check the lease, the length of the lease. How good is the tenant? What sort of guarantees is the tenant given? What does he pay? What does he doesn't pay? And earthquake,
strengthening. And an opportunity could be sitting in that.
That's right.
If you've got deep pockets, you said, yeah?
Very deep pockets.
Yeah, absolutely. Olly, fantastic. I'm looking forward to the whole series with you. This is going to be great. These guys are going to be, tap into the expert, and I'm valuing the learning myself. So thank you very much. We do this all again in a fortnight, and we'll get it beamed out to everybody. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.